with these incredible panelists who I'd like to introduce. We have Dave Gallagher, creator of MechWest and head of AnimSchool Studios, Noah Gallagher, co-writer of MechWest, Brooke Keesling, head of animation talent development at Bento Studios and the VP of ASIFA, and Sean Glaze, otherwise known as Lord Spew to the internet. And there will be an opportunity for any questions from the audience at the end, so if you have any, hold on to them and I'll be happy to get to them after I yap with these folks for a few minutes. So up first, I would love just to hear from each of you your own story with animation in general. I mean, keep it brief a little bit, but what is your intro and what is your relationship to the animation world? Let's start with you.
I worked at Blue Sky Studios, now no longer, and was a character development supervisor there, and worked on a bunch of other movies. Then I started AnimSchool, and then I started AnimSchool Studios, and with our great graduates, they do this wonderful work for indie animation.
Noah, let's go to you.
Yeah, I was always steeped in the world of animation. Dave's my dad, so always grew up getting the, if you could never have guessed, I'm sure. But yeah, we grew up getting the complimentary Fox movies and stuff. So watched tons of animation, loved all that. Always had it in my heart to be part of some animation project someday, and it came about like this. Cool.
This is going to sound like I'm going to give a really horribly long answer, but I won't. And I'm going to start in childhood, but then I won't.
First, I was born.
This is the first. When I was a kid, my dad owned a model train store in North Hollywood, California, and it was near Disney, Hanna-Barbera, Filmation, a lot of animation studios, and like all kids, I loved drawing, and that's where I learned that, animation's a real job. So like, Ward Kimball used to come in, and some of the directors on the Flintstones and the Jetsons, and I was like, how do I learn to do this? And they said, well, there's a school up the 5, you just get off at McBean Parkway, it's called CalArts, and just go there and enroll as if you just like drive up there when you turn 18 and enroll in CalArts. But so I did later go to CalArts, made films, and when I graduated, like right now, there was not a lot of work in animation, so I pivoted, even though I didn't even know I was pivoting, because just like that wasn't really the word we used yet. But I was like, okay, there was a visual effects studio hiring, miniature effects, practical effects, so I just cold called them, got hired there, loved it, got to work on Batman, like The Dark Knight, Inception, Pirates of the Caribbean, like all these, Hugo, The Aviator, lots of really fun films that had practical effects, but then that industry died, so like, I've already been through an industry that's kind of dying or changing, so like this moment in time is not super different to me. But then after that, I ended up going back to animation at Cartoon Network, then Disney, a little bit Warner Brothers, and now Bento Box as recruiting and a little bit of development. So see how I wrapped that up and didn't make it up?
No, it was beautiful.
Like child, never gonna be here on That's it.
I also want to say that Brooke was the first person that ever took a lunch with me in LA when I moved out here in 2014.
Sean Glaze.
She raised me. So I come from independent animated shorts, and it's kind of like the vibes of Newground and YouTube, Ebom's World, that sort of stuff. But right out of school, I put a short online called Fist Head, and it blew up for that time at least. I don't think it's super viral right now, but I ended up getting hired and scouted from that. And I find myself sort of in the middle of indie and the studio system, and I've used the studio system to inform a lot of my indie animation stuff. So, I mean, I started off at a company called Fox ADHD, and I've been over at Disney XD and Warner Brothers and Cartoon Network. I worked on Regular Show and Teen Titans Go and The Midnight Gospel and Clone High. And so I had worked on these shows as a storyboard artist, but more recently, all my focus has been on finding ways to take what I do as an indie short form creator and pitch those shorts and my cartooning styles look to companies, find people, trick people into giving me money for it, and try to make a living that way. And so a lot of my career now is pitching and making shorts and finding ways to fund, the indie stuff that I make.
And speaking of your individual art style, you actually drew all of the panelists for this panel. Yeah. And his art style is to make us all look as ugly as possible. So I do want to thank you so much.
I didn't feel like that. I felt prettier.
I thought that I was going to get kicked off the panel, but I was like, I feel like if I post this thing, people are going to be like, oh, it's an ad, and they're just going to scroll away from it. So I was like, I got to put
I love that.
a little fun stuff in there, but I'm sorry.
I accept your apology. I'll find it.
I'm gonna put mine on my tombstone.
Please do not pull up the image. Now, as we're talking about indie animation, I think we should maybe lay the ground rules of how do we define indie? What does that term mean to all of you? Happy for any of you to jump in.
You guys can take the lead if you want, if you'd like.
Well, so when we had the idea for MechWest, we did pitch it to studios, to distributors, and everyone like, wow, that's really cool, but we're not gonna do it. And so, and one of the things is that we weren't really looking for permission to do it. We were just gonna do it, and we're gonna find a way. So it's like the idea that you're just gonna go ahead and do something rather than wait for someone to tell you that you can do it. And that, to me, that's what indie is. And so it's not really the right way to do it, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah.
The right way to do it is not to do what we do, which is start making content. It's to pitch ideas, because the studios, they want to drive it.
Yeah.
They want it to be theirs. They want it, and so this is kind of like it's sort of at an area where they don't really love that approach. So it's another sort of issue with indie. But if you really feel really passionate about something, then you should just do it. And that's what indie is.
Yeah, they never told us that they didn't like it. They just said it wasn't the right time and how to fit it into their brand or their upcoming stuff. And the fact that being indie is just being outside of all that structure.
To me, he's just like an attitude. It's like punk rock,
It's like David Lynch.
Like, you gotta make the thing that you wanna make, and you're gonna figure out a way to make it. And to me, the most important part of it is making something that you want to make and not worrying about which audience, which demographic, la 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 la. So, make the thing you wanna make and then let it find its audience. So, if a studio wants to pay for that, that's great. If someone else is paying, they have the right to give you notes on it. So if you don't want notes at all, just make it yourself. If you're okay with getting some notes and having it be more brain trust, Pixar-y thing, that's not wrong, it's just not indie. So it's just kind of what do you want to do and how are you gonna get the thing that's burning in your soul made? And there's no wrong answer or right answer, it's just how are you gonna figure out how to get it done?
I have the right answer, there is a right answer.
Sean Glaze has the right answer.
So I was actually getting tripped up about this a whole lot on the way over, because there's a lot of time in the car to think on the drive from LA to San Diego. And I was like, I'm not indie. I work at these studios and people pay me money. But what I was thinking is, I think that there's sort of two ways to think about it. There's the first mode that I think that you two do very beautifully, which is you get rid of the company in between you and the audience. So that gets rid of notes, that also puts them in direct contact with you, makes you have to worry about the funding. And a lot of the times you end up doing that for a web series, or if you have a YouTube channel or something like that. But I also think there's this other version of indie, which is kind of the independent animation contractor, which can span from one person to a collection of people to even a small studio. I've heard studios of 50 people called indie before because they aren't Disney. They might get money from companies like that to make it, but they're still making the decisions at that company or servicing that art themselves. And I kind of fall in between these two places because a lot of the things that I do, I am getting money from Bento Box or Studio Digital or Adult Swim, or Adult Swim or Cartoona or Fox or whatever. And but I'm still making shorts that look like my drawing style. I'm storyboarding and I'm pitching it, you know. And but it did give me some imposter syndrome on the way over. I was like,
You're having an existential crisis on the 405.
well, I was like, what if they ask me some indie question and I don't even know how to speak the language? But I mean, technically,
No, you do.
I make indie animations.
I mean, sometimes it's in comparison, so like, Flow, you guys all saw Flow on the Oscar. We're so happy about that. That's indie I mean, they did have a budget of, you know, a few $1 million, but they made it in a room in Latvia with Blender. So like, compared to, you know, a big studio film, to me, I would still call that indie, but why get hooked on labels? Don't stress on it. Don't stress on it, Sean Glaze.
Yeah, if you feel punk, then be indie.
You're beautiful.
You're indie.
You're beautiful.
Now, of course, so many beautiful things come out of indie animation. Of course, today, if any of you aren't already familiar with MechWest, we've got 6 over there. We've even got Pearl in the audience herself. So some beautiful content comes out of this, but I understand there can also be drawbacks. Of course, budget probably being the key thing that's really difficult to work with. So what do you see as the key challenges when you're working outside of a larger studio model?
Yeah, it's money. That's it. No, let's see.
Panel's done. Money's the problem. Bye, you guys.
Yeah, I don't think the audience understands, like, they'll get impatient. Why is it taking you months to do this? Well, it's because you don't have millions upon millions to shovel it, you know, and get all these people. You're sort of a small team, you're doing it, you know, as you can, and you're doing it out of passion, and it's just a whole different thing. So it's just getting the audience to go with you and be patient, because, yeah, it's not something, you know that triangle, where like you get quality or speed or cost, right? Low cost. You can only pick 2, right? You know. So, yeah, and just getting your audience to understand, like, hey, it's gonna take a while.
Okay, yeah. Well, and I think, can we just add, can you give us an idea of what the timeline has been like on MechWest releases so far? Congrats on just releasing episode 3 last week.
It took like over a year just to get set it up and do a trailer. It was terrible. And then like a year to do the first episode, a year plus, and like 10 months, and then now we're got it down to 5 months. So yeah, we've got it sort of firing on cylinders now. So yeah.
More of our panel on sort of the challenges of the indie space.
Yeah, I mean, what Dave was saying about how we really kind of went about it the wrong way just because we didn't know what was the typical procedure for getting a TV show made, and we kind of thought, like, since we have the know-how and resources to do some animation ourselves, maybe we'll be ahead of the game by making, I don't know if we at that point thought we just have some test footage, or I think we were just thinking, yeah, we have a full episode for them. But by that point, they're like, it's a little too far in the game for them. So it's just inexperience from, at least, and that's, of course, we were trying to, I guess, we weren't trying to go indie, we were trying to go traditional in an indie kind of mindset. So that kind of, it was just a learning experience.
Yeah. And we pitched to all the main studios and everything like that. Getting it in that sense, that worked fine. It was the other part.
Now, you bring up pitching to the studios. I'm curious, how does one even get into those rooms in the first place?
I will tell you one thing not to do. Don't send any studio executive or any studio, anyone, your materials without asking permission and making sure it's okay. Because legally, we're not allowed to look at unsolicited pitches. So if you send me, and I'm working at a big studio, and so far most of the studios I've worked with have been kind of bigger,
your pitch materials and say, hey, I've got this great thing, and blah, 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 blah. I have to send it to legal, and then I have to write back, I have to not look at it, I have to send it to legal, and write back to the person, I'm sorry, we don't take unsolicited pitches, because just in case we're working on something that's very close to what you're submitting. So I was working at a big studio years ago that we used to do portfolio reviews at CTN, and well, Lightbox didn't exist yet, but CTN, Comic-Con, these big events. And one day their lawyers pulled a bunch of us recruiters into a room and said, you can't do portfolio reviews at these events anymore because someone said that a big film that had two sisters on a frozen tundra was an idea that was in someone's portfolio, and apparently someone was suing the company because they said, you took this idea from my portfolio. I don't think that they took that idea from the portfolio, but the studios don't want to be sued by someone saying, hey, I submitted that idea. So one thing not to do is to do that. So one thing to do is to get a rep. A rep would be a manager or an agent or an entertainment lawyer to set up a meeting for you with a development executive, and then you sign an NDA and you say, we have all agreed that I can submit my materials to this studio. So just, it's so funny how I've been doing this for so long that people who should totally know better will still be like, hey Brooke, check out this thing, and I'm like, I want to, but I can't get it. So just word to the wise.
Yeah, so being indie is like you're so engaged and you're fired up, but there are some industry practices that make sense and you might not know to follow. So that's one of the challenges.
Now you know.
Yeah.
But you can, but the on the positive side, being you guys or Lord Spew or all like so many creators just making films, even your student films. I am paid to go to the Ottawa Animation Festival, to Annecy, to just part of my day is just looking online for people's content, and then having someone, a development exec or a recruiter, reach out to you because they saw your stuff and they thought it was cool. Like that's a great way to get your foot in the door. It's better if we come to you, but if we don't come to you, get a rep. Like just try all the other.
Yeah, it's one thing that I always tell, especially new students. There's a lot of new students who are afraid to post their stuff online, and when you don't post your stuff online, you're basically making the entirety of the job search on you, as opposed to a possibility that they'll meet you in the middle and discover you. And also, recruiters love discovering you. Like they love feeling like, this is my new treasure. I'll take this back to my boss and get high praises. But
it's kind of true. Not in like a creepy way, but just like, you're just like, it's like your baby, like, oh, I brought this person into the studio.
Yeah, but one of the best things that you can do is learn how to pitch yourself. And pitching, I think that when you bring pitching to mind, it's like, oh, you're pitching your show. But I've been in instances where I'm pitching a show. I've been in instances where I'm bringing in 4 one-page pitches just to a general meeting to just kind of like talk about what ideas you have, and it's not specific to a pitch. I've been in pitches where you have to pitch to an advertiser to win a bid for their commercial to become the supervising director of the commercial. And pitching shorts, I've pitched like 40 different shorts in my life, and a lot of them have gotten passed on, but you bring like extra, and I think that if you can learn how to sell yourself succinctly and sell your idea in a catchy way that another person can feel why you're excited about it and transmit that idea into their brain, it's going to help you immensely.
True.
Now, Brooke, you have recruited animation talent for places like Cartoon Network, Disney, Warner Brothers before. What were the key things that you would look for? What made animation talent stand out to you?
So, I've been doing it so long, I started with DeviantArt, that was the place then it was Tumblr, now it's more Instagram, YouTube, so like that's always kind of like a moving target, but it doesn't matter, it's all about the talent. So, I remember there was one artist that I loved so much, and was just always posting on Tumblr. Victor Courtright.
Love him.
Love him. And I was just like, oh my god, this guy's amazing. Meanwhile, like, I was so excited to just like follow his stuff and see his like the stuff he was posting all the time. He's just constantly, like, if you ever go to lunch with him, he's just like drawing all the time. So I was so excited about that. Meanwhile, I'll have someone send me a portfolio, and there's some people who send me a portfolio like year after year, and there's nothing different in it. It's like, I don't get that like excitement from. I'm like, yeah,
You can see it
good.
right the first time. You can see it right. You gotta look again.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like,
wearing your
they
glasses.
haven't added anything. It's like getting stale. Like, and not that you have to change your portfolio all the time. I don't want people to feel like they have to constantly be posting. I don't want people to like be depressed. How much should I be posting in? I know I teach at CalArts at night, and some of my students have talked about anxiety, about how many likes they're getting and how often they're posting. I'm like, no, like, don't let this rule your life. But if it's like, if I see someone that's like posting a lot and it's interesting and there's like a lot of life behind it and it's an individual style, but they still have like craftsmanship and I could still hire them on one of our shows, even though their style doesn't look like our show, but it's also like, hey, I could push them up to our development department. So those are the kinds of things, like someone who's got a healthy mix of their own style and cool, fun things that they're doing, combined with what I can see as like the ability to work on and match styles of whatever show I need them to be on. That's just like, it's really fun to be a recruiter. You're just like looking through people's art all the time and going to festivals and watching cool films.
I am picturing you going through DeviantArt and stumbling across the like 14-year-old furry OC.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And
Okay,
being
my
like,
mind went
I
to
need to give
furries
this-
too.
I need to give this person a show. Like,
When it took that turn, I was so happy there was Tumblr. I was just like, for a while, I was like, do not send me your DeviantArt.
no, you have to look again. You didn't look right. Actually,
You're right, I didn't look right. I mean, but now there is a fan base for that, so like it's not wrong, it's just, we weren't making shows that looked like that. I mean, Bad Guys, that's kind of, Bad Guys in Zootopia, they're a little like,
Beastars, dude.
of it, furries are. Hey, I'm not a furry hater, but DeviantArt for a while was like getting real. Like, I can't hire you on regular show.
Yeah, but they're animals.
I know, but they're not those animals.
No, we've talked about the idea of obtaining distribution, and I'm curious what a real distribution offer looks like. What should an indie producer be looking for as the green flags and the red flags in going through that process?
Crickets.
Seems like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think if you're a creator, like if you're someone who's not as well known and you've pitched something that is just like, oh, I've been working in this studio for a while as a storyboard artist, and I've got an idea, I'm gonna take it to development, and they like it. It's really gonna be, they're gonna get more notes and shaping by the development team. But if you're someone who makes a has-been hotel and is already proven or has a big fan base, then Viv probably is like, no, I want a deal where I get less of that. I can't talk about numbers because that's all over the place and I'm not privy to all of that. And it's different for different people. I will say, speaking of numbers, we had a creator at Cartoon Network who had a family lawyer do his deal for him for the show. I'm not gonna say what it was. Instead of getting an entertainment lawyer, and I don't know what the deal was, but I've heard through the grapevine that it was like a joke. So if you get close to getting your own deal, make sure you hire an entertainment lawyer who has done deals with the streamers and the studios before. You need to learn to protect yourself that way because, you know, like anyone, if you can get it for less, then they'll try to get it for less. But just protect yourself and get good representation.
Yeah, I think that there's multiple ways to come at this, and there's also multiple ways of talking about what a distributor is and how this cartoon is being, dished out. I think that when you're pitching to studios, there are a few ways where it's being done differently right now. I think we're seeing more and more examples of people crowdfunding their whole pilot, and sometimes even making a full season of their thing, and then licensing that to the studios. And it all depends on how much of the rights obviously you want to keep your rights. There's going to be certain studios that are a little more loosey-goosey, depending on the amount of leverage you have, the size of your audience. I mean, I think that we see different shows where the studio, even though it's going on Netflix or it's going on one of these other platforms where they allow simultaneous upload on YouTube because that's where its original home was. I think that these things are flexible, but in my opinion, if you're going the route of development, I think that the sweetest thing that you can go for is a place that will also help fund the development of it too. Because the two different ways of pitching are like, hey, I already made this thing. Do you like it just the way it is? Great, you can buy it or license it. But then the other way is you're pitching them an idea and then they want to develop it with you. And in that case, the more work you have done on it, sometimes the more apprehensive they might be, because they'll be like, well, we'd like to see if you're open to changing this part of it because we want to reach this kind of market. Oh, maybe this is a little old for the audience that we're trying to reach. Would you be down to take out some of the violence? And if you are down to be flexible, sometimes you can have a circumstance where you go in with a very light pitch and then they actually pay you to make the Bible with them. So there's different ways of approaching it depending on how close to the chest you keep your work, you know?
Because the development execs know, like, you know your project as the artist, but they know what their marching orders are from the streamer, the cables, like whoever's gonna be showing this thing. So they have information and they also know what else they have in development. So if your thing is too close to something that they already have in development, you know, their job is to kind of help you get it sold. So they're kind of like cartilage, like they're between the actual person who says yes and you, and you're kind of like, they're trying to make it ready so they can sell it up. So then they sell it, they're like, okay, yeah, we got it to this place, they sell it to their boss, and that boss might have to sell it up to the next level, depending on how big the studio is, or streamer, or whatever it is.
In my experience though, having said all of that, I think that the most effective way to pitch a thing, in my experience, is to make it to the furthest extent yourself that you can, so that your voice is infused in there. Because sometimes you go into a situation where you're developing something and they give so many notes that it loses your voice a little bit. Yeah. And I think that the best times that I've had pitching and the most efficient results have been from like, hey, I made a 1 to 2 minute short. This is exactly what it would be, but if you give me the resources, it could probably look even better with more people or whatever. Yeah. But here's my voice.
That's what makes an artist interesting, is their point of view. So that's, if they like you as an artist, they saw your film online, saw whatever, then hopefully they're saying, okay, let's develop something that would fit our space, whatever, you know, Disney, Cartoon Network, whatever it is, but your voice within our space. So, but the most powerful thing you have as an artist is your voice and your vision. So, you know, a Henry Selick movie doesn't look like, you know, someone else's, it doesn't look like a Pixar movie, you know. So you want to have that differentiation.
Now, we've talked a lot about money on this panel in terms of, obviously, that can always be a challenge, but something that I see in common for a lot of indie artists is making merch, finding a way to monetize the art that they have created. And so I'm curious why that has become so important and why that's a key part in the model for indie animation, and how it can help to offset these production costs as well.
Yeah, well, we just barely finished our first comic for MechWest, so we'll be, in fact, I think they're ending it up.
Yeah, I think so. You in the audience have the comic.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, we're planning on selling that through maybe on our YouTube page or something. So, yeah, I don't know. It's partly about spreading the word and then hopefully, recouping the cost. Yeah, we haven't cracked the merch question quite yet. Like we're in our Kickstarter, we did toys and stuff and T-shirts and stuff. So I think you need the critical mass of the fans and the followers. So we're kind of holding back a little bit, and I think that's when it becomes something that isn't just something that costs you money, something that makes you money.
Yeah, it's a whole other part of the job almost, like a whole other job. That's why the big studios, those people making the show don't also make the merchandise.
I know,
If you're indie, you have to kind of figure out how to do it all, or at least, make your team big enough to have that going on. But it's true that merchandise is the big, that's the big thing that sustains all these big films and the IPs and stuff. That's where the funding to make all the amazing films, like oftentimes it's not through the box office or the TV returns, it's merchandise.
I think that this is a very interesting conversation, and broadening it slightly is just what are the ways that you allow people that enjoy your thing that you make to give back or support you, whether that is opening a Kickstarter, whether that's streaming on Twitch and allowing donations and bits and gifted subs and stuff like that, to Patreon, Ko-Fi, those sort of other programs, and then folding in that other component of merchandise. I think that one of the most important things for any freelancer artist is to have multiple streams of income, even if they're small, and to have multiple ones where you can let it go, and it might make you a little money as you go along instead of you having to work every week on every one. So you might have ones that are more intensive, like doing commissions, like doing commission gifts or animation or something like that, and those take a lot of work on the day-to-day, every day. And then you might have a Redbubble or Teespring site where you put up, print-on-demand shirts. Maybe those are low effort, hey, I drew some fun stuff on my Twitch stream and I just always put them up on there, so people who were there, they can buy them if they want to, but maybe that's not as much of the big merch seller. And then you have your in-person shirts that usually require you to spend more up at the front of it, and then you'll recoup your costs plus some. I think in a lot of cases, at least for me, merch sort of just feeds into and perpetuates itself rather than maybe making up the cost of the film. But at the very least, it'll hopefully pay for itself and allow you to invest more into making merch. And the more merch there is, the word spreads a little.
We're literally sitting above a few blocks worth of merch. Upstairs at Comic-Con, and it's right down below us. This is kind of pre-internet days when I made a student film that was one of the first animated films to get into Sundance. They didn't have animation there for their entire history. And so I made a 5-minute animated short, and I was working at the VFX studio at the time, and I was like, I want to make shirts to sell so it can help me pay to go to these festivals, because then it wasn't about putting your film online, so it was getting into festivals. And my film got into over 100 festivals, which was the equivalent of getting 1 million views. It was nothing, not that many people saw it, but at that time I was wow, 1,000 people in the audience at Sundance was huge, right? So I made these shirts, and I bought more shirts than I did my own clothes to Sundance. I had $50 in my pocket for the week, and I ended up selling out my shirts, and that helped me pay to go to the next festival. I went to Japan by selling. I had a website for my short film. That was it all sounds of course you had a website for your film, but that wasn't the thing yet, you know? So like, it's kind of like where there's a will, there's a way, and like, I wasn't doing it to make merch, but I was just doing it, like, I went to Japan twice because I sold dumb t-shirts and VHS tapes and stickers on my website. So like, it's just, you always have to, and like now there's so many more ways to do that, and like, and I feel like my favorite part of Comic-Con is Artist Athlete, like where all like more individual booths are. I mean, I like this, yeah. I mean, I like the Peanuts booth too, there's another guy who can see a long line. But going to that or going to a Lightbox, and like, you just feel good about giving an artist your money for their stickers or their shirts or their plushes or whatever. It's just like, you're helping fund possibly like the next big project. You never know what you're helping with. So I think it's really important. And you know the animator Bill Clinton?
Mm-hmm.
He always, back in the day, also kind of like pre-internet, pre-DeviantArt, he would say, his theory was like, you just need 1,000 fans. Like if you just have like 1,000 dedicated fans who will buy your drawings when you show up at a film festival, or your books, your DVDs, whatever, like you can kind of like keep cobbling it together. So now it's a lot easier to do those things. So just, keep doing them because your audience wants it and it's fun.
And I will shout out, I do even spy some of Sean's merch in the audience today.
Yeah.
So there are ways to support our creators here today. Now, Brooke, I did also want to ask you about, you are the vice president of ASIFA, which for those of you who aren't in the know, they are behind the Annie Awards, which I'm guessing a lot of us in the room know about. Can you tell us just a little bit about the organization and why it's something that you want to be a part of?
Yeah, so there are ASIFAs all over the world. There's ASIFA International, there's a MechWest chapter of ASIFA, there's ASIFA East. I think there's still a San Francisco branch, and I think there's one in Atlanta or Georgia now too. ASIFA-Hollywood is probably the best well-known one because we do run the Annie Awards. And if you don't know the Annies, they're kind of like the little baby Oscars, but just for animation. Because the Oscars have 2 categories, animated short and animated feature. But a long time ago, people like June Foray, who was the voice actor behind Rocky and Bullwinkle. Anyone here is old enough to remember that. She was also the narrator of my student film. She was.
Look at that.
I wrote June Foray a letter and I sent some artwork and she said yes. This actor, I know, she was so sweet. But she was on the ASIFA board and she was the person who named the Annies. The Annies, like in her cute little, let's call it the Annies. She's so cute.
Did you send unsolicited artwork?
And my lawyer didn't bust me. She didn't send me the legal. And then I painted, it wasn't cell animation because I realized how expensive cells were, but I did paint her a cell to thank her for doing it. Framed it for her. But so, ASIFA-Hollywood, besides doing the Annie Awards, we also do a lot of screenings with like the directors to do Q&As. We do a lot of scholarships. We do faculty scholarships for like faculty who are teaching animation, if they want to apply for some kind of grant to make their own film. And then we also do a lot of student scholarships. So I think the combined scholarship awards per year is around $80,000 a year. So it's a great organization to be a member of.